Jeff Todd here for MLB Trade Rumors. In today's video, we're going to take a look back at the Jacoby Ellsbury saga. What went wrong with his 7-year contract with the Yankees? Please do run down below and hit that subscribe button for me. Alright, on to Ellsbury. You know, I like to trace this back to 2011. Ellsbury had an MVP quality season, came in second in the voting that year, 32 home runs. That's a number that turned out to be an outlier for him. The next year, the Red Sox fell apart, and there was that memorable August trade. We'll probably do a video on that at some point. Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford, Josh Beckett all ended up being shipped in August of that year to the Dodgers from the Red Sox. Nick Punto also in that deal. People forget that. That deal cleared so much salary. If you go back and look at our post on that topic at the time, you'll see one or two suggestions that, hey, this means the Red Sox are going to be able to keep Jacoby Ellsbury. Now, at that time, he was in a bit of a down, injury-riddled year, but it turned out that he had a nice bounce-back season in 2013. Above-average hitter, 52 stolen bags, really nice defensive work up the middle. 5 wins above replacement. This was a star-level performance for Ellsbury, even if it wasn't quite up to his 2011 output. And entering that winter, the question was whether the Boston organization would keep their star center fielder or whether he might be pried away by one of several other plausible contenders for his services, including the rival New York Yankees. Now, one big question at that time was Ellsbury's durability. The view was that this was a super high-quality player so long as he was on the field. His agent, Scott Boras, said, look, Ellsbury's plenty durable. He just keeps running into people. That had sort of been the theme of his prior injuries. Of course, that was also sort of endemic to his style of play. This was a speed guy, an all-out, run-around-the-field type of a guy. All those nagging injuries, what would happen? Well, the Red Sox decided not to pursue him heavily. The Yankees went all out. They also had another free agent of their own that winter. You might remember him, Robinson Cano. They weren't willing to go past $170 million or so, according to reports. He ended up in Seattle. The Yankees also looked at Shin-Soo Choo. They considered Carlos Beltran, but they ended up with Ellsbury. 7 years, $153 million. Right at the prediction, I must say, of my own boss, MLBTR's Tim Durkis, who predicted 7 years and $150 million for Ellsbury. Now, things got off to a good enough start in 2014. Ellsbury was pretty much the same guy in many ways that he was the season prior. Solid batting work, power really didn't quite come back, but still ran well, still played well in the field. Not quite as good maybe, but a solid season. The contract was off to a decent start, but that's pretty much about where the good vibes ended. Ellsbury thereafter never was really the same player. Below average hitting in a couple of seasons. He just couldn't make hard contact. Remember, this is the start of the StatCast era, and it was pretty abundantly clear this was a guy who was a 300 hitter before. The wheels were still pretty good. Still pretty good, better than about 3/4 of the rest of the league. No longer a burner, still an excellent base runner, still an excellent defender, but was no longer able to make enough good contact to beat out enough of those infield dribblers to get on base enough. Became a below average hitter, and this, of course, also happened while he was dealing with a host of injuries. They never really seemed to stop. He missed over 100 games over about a 3-year span. But through the first 4 years of this contract, we need to take a step back and realize. Now, it was frustrating for Yankees fans, no doubt, to watch Ellsbury's performance during that time. It wasn't great. But, that being said, 2017, Ellsbury was about an average hitter. He was still a solid performer. And over the course of that 4-year span, he put up 8 wins above replacement by measure of Fangraphs and actually 9.5 wins above replacement by measure of Baseball Reference. Not what the Yankees were hoping for, but not as terrible a performance maybe as it felt like at the time. Unfortunately, things really got worse from that point forward. In fact, we have not seen him on the field since. And this is where the saga really begins about the second half of that contract. So as the 2018 season was beginning to approach, Ellsbury was firmly a part of the Yankees' plan so far as anybody knows, but since then, all we've seen is just a string of minor injury updates. Ellsbury had back issues, foot issues, he dealt with oblique problems, and finally, as this thing played out over the course of that 2018 season, no real sign that he was making progress, and he eventually came down with hip problems, which turned into hip surgery. He was done for the year. Okay, one missed season, 2019, last year. What were the Yankees going to get from Ellsbury? At that point, they had really already now firmly committed to Aaron Hicks up the middle. Ellsbury looked more like a reserve player, but you still thought he'd have a chance to get back on the field. In fact, there was some talk of maybe doing a bad contract swap, trying to move some money off the books. The Giants were supposedly somewhat interested, maybe a pitching deal, maybe get a starter back. It didn't happen, and Ellsbury never got back on the field again. There was talk of plantar fasciitis in the middle of the year. Manager and Boone gave an update. He said that Ellsbury's been dealing with a lot of little things. Well, behind the scenes of all this, remember, there's an awful lot of money being paid out. Now, reports indicate that the Yankees had an insurance policy in effect for 2018 and 2019 that would allow them to recoup 3/4 of what they owed Ellsbury if he was unavailable to play, which obviously occurred. That's a little over $30 million going back to the team, assuming they were able to collect it all, which we don't know for sure. But there was still one more guaranteed year left on Ellsbury's deal, plus a buyout of a club option for the final season. So another $26 million or so still at stake for the 2020 season. Now, as it turned out, the Yankees decided to release Ellsbury beforehand and not before deciding they were not going to pay him. The reason, according to the team, is that Ellsbury has supposedly for years been seeking outside medical help without getting team approval. That's not allowed if it's for a baseball-related injury, although there are quite a few potential complicated issues there. Ellsbury's response is that the treatment, whatever it was that he was seeking, was for non-baseball related matters. That's all certainly going to be in front of an arbitration panel to sort out. The Players Union making very clear, as you would expect, that it's siding with Ellsbury on this. Just how that will play out, when that will play out, and what the effect of the current coronavirus stoppage on that money will be is really completely up in the air. Huge amount of uncertainty with that last $26 or so million. Add that back in to the potentially 30 plus million the team may already have saved, and we're in the realm of potentially $50 million or more of what was owed at the back end of that contract that has or could come off the books effectively for the Yankees. If that comes to pass, if that's indeed how it's played out, maybe the deal didn't end up being all that bad at all. The Yankees only out $100 million or so for a guy that did put up, depending on how you value him, 8-9 wins above replacement. That's probably not optimal, but it's not that terrible. Of course, I doubt that's exactly how everybody would see the contract who's lived through it, and it does remain to be seen just how the finances will be sorted out at the end. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, and we'll have another one back for you again tomorrow.